Every now and then you get somebody that thinks they're bigger than the program. And fortunately, I don't like to work with those type of candidates because it's a team atmosphere in these med spas. Unless you're working doctor and you one-on-one, there's really not too much room for an ego.
You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Downloadable audio episodes can be found in the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. We are locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie, Calls on Call Extraordinary Answering Service, as well as the Bold Business Book. And today we're welcoming / preparing to learn from Jonathan McLean of McLean Aesthetics. So, Jonathan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's sunny where I'm at, and yeah, I'm doing good. It's amazing. How are you?
Nice. I'm doing very well. I appreciate that. Thanks for being on the show. Tell me, just so that the listeners understand, what is McLean Aesthetics?
Yeah. So McLean Aesthetics is a niche aesthetic recruiting firm. So what we do is we focus solely on aesthetic businesses like med spas, dermatology offices, plastic surgery offices. And really what the problem, we focus on the biggest problem. So the core problem usually in those type of offices is talent and building a great team. So we focus on hiring aesthetic injectors, which is a new craze out in the market right now, and also dermatologists and plastic surgeons.
You know, it's interesting you say that about the injections and all that jazz,
Yeah.
because I have a call answering service. We answer phones for businesses like this, the aesthetics business. That's why I was really interested in the service that you offer, because side tangent, it's tough to hire people. What was interesting is these clients came to us and I had to do a little bit of research. Like, what do you guys do? So, can you, for people like me that are cavemen and don't quite understand all the injections and all that jazz that people pay a lot of cash for, can you elaborate on that whole part?
Yeah, for sure. And that's totally normal, honestly. I was just at a conference, I think this past weekend, I was talking to some of my colleagues, and they were saying that it's only 7% of the market really buying aesthetics right now. That's only 7% of, yeah. So in that case, many people do not know about the industry at all, but it is $1 billion industry. So that says a lot in itself. For aesthetics, what it really means is I focus on really like clinics with non-injectables. So injectables are products that they inject into your face, such as like Botox or derma filler. So either like relax the lines or plump up parts of your face. We also work with plastic surgeons that contour the body, liposuction, BBLs, things like that, and dermatologists that really focus on the skin and treating the skin.
Got it. How does a guy like you get involved with something like that? Because I'm just thinking that seems to be leaning towards the feminine, but
Yeah.
maybe I could be completely wrong there. I just, if someone brings a needle to my face, I'm not going to be the first one to be like, yeah, let's do this. I'll pay you for it.
100%. It's really crazy because I say when, especially with entrepreneurs, I feel like the business choose you. You don't choose the business, obviously. When a lot of people look at me like, well, how did you? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But I was started off working in under like an apprenticeship with a sales and recruiting expert. And after COVID, things kind of got, different. And I was laid off from that position. But during that process, he did allow me to kind of explore the market and medical and see what I wanted to do. Like, what did you want to focus on? What do you might be a good sector? And I came across cosmetic dermatology. And I always say, if you like kind of an interest in something, really just do your research. Go out into it, like learn a lot more about it, and you might be finding something interesting. I found it so interesting because it's like not only like healthcare, but it's healthcare and science meet together, and it also matches with pop culture, which I found myself a lot, interested in and really learning about the market on that too. So when I found that out, I got more interested in it, and I just went full fledged with it. Got going to conferences, start really learning about it, building out my team down in South Florida, and really taking over the market and building and providing that need to clients.
Interesting. So one of the clients that we had, we don't have him anymore. I don't even know if he's still around. He would post an ad online and our phones would light up. And challenging part was he wouldn't let us know that there was going to be an ad. But I forget exactly what the ad said. It was something I want to say geared towards weight loss. And then he also had some with vitamin C injections or something like that. And it was interesting because the ad would go out and phones, we're talking, I don't know, from maybe 20 calls a day to 20 to 30 calls an hour. It was
Wow.
insane how well the marketing worked.
Yeah.
Downside is once we set the appointments for him, he wasn't always the greatest at showing up. So that didn't work out so well. But talk about a whatever the marketing was dialed in. I don't know if it was him doing it or if he had somebody that he was paying to do it. But people were interested in paying to either look better or pretend that they look better or aim towards that direction. It was amazing. We answer phones for a lot of different companies, and I've never ever had a company with marketing that worked that quickly. It was like a light switch. It was
Yeah.
crazy, crazy. So is that what you're seeing in the market?
Yeah, I would say that's exactly what I'm seeing in the market. You know, a lot of people, speaking of weight loss, it's so interesting because they have this big Ozempic phase right now. Everybody wants Ozempic or everybody's on it, right? And it just shows to speak that people really care about how they look and how they present themselves to the world. How you feel on the outside, how people approach you really builds up your confidence. So a lot of people, you know, we started in Miami where it's, you know, everybody's body conscious there, like everybody, you know, everybody's going to the med spa or dermatology or whatever office to fix this or fix that or change this. But slowly that's covering the whole United States. I can go to places like Tennessee or Kentucky, and this industry is booming because people everywhere are starting to, you know, become more conscious about how they look, how they feel, how they want to feel, how they want to be perceived to the world. So they're willing to spend any money that they have, any money that they don't have to get it done. Even during COVID, it was this big thing called the Zoom effect. So people were looking at Zoom and they were seeing their face and they were like, oh, I need to fix this. I need to fix this. Boosted up sales in this industry so much. So yeah, I think
Really?
vanity in this market is huge. People want to
Wow.
change themselves.
So something like this, I'll tell you another really quick anecdote. I had an office. We ended up getting rid of it during the pandemic, or right at the pandemic, when the government said, "Hey, funny story, you can't be in the office anymore." Across the hallway from us was a woman that did is it eyebrow threading or something like that. I didn't even know what that was because I'm a Neanderthal and just like, what? Didn't even think about eyebrows or eyelashes. And it turns out she's a super cool woman. She's teaching classes. She ended up subleasing her space because she was doing all this stuff. And I
Yeah.
remember I was helping her with her computer or something like that. And I looked at her price list and I was like, wow, that's cool. Good for you. How often are people coming to do this? And she's like, once a week, week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe. Like people are doing that number times four every month. Well, no wonder you're taking over my space. That is incredible. Because I would see people come and go from her office. It was amazing, amazing to watch. And I'm like, maybe I got to learn how to do this threading thing because she was, she's still printing money. It's impressive. It's impressive.
Yeah,
So I
for
totally
sure, for
understand what you're
sure.
saying about people, I guess, really interested in spending money to look good.
Yeah,
So I guess
exactly.
that's
Yeah,
good, right?
yeah. It's really good. I mean, the industry is never gonna go out of style.
Yeah. And it sounds like it's a young industry and there's still plenty of market to really grow there, right?
I think Botox, if we really break it down, Botox was like the first like neurotoxin to be, to my understanding, to be developed and using on patients, and that was only 20 years ago. So you put that in perspective of
Wow.
like transplant or other sectors of healthcare, dialysis, whatever. It's, I mean, night and day. I mean, hundreds of, you know, 20 years ago is, you know, night and day.
Sure. Interesting. So how do you get involved in finding employees for places like this? Because finding employees universally for whatever type of business has been a challenge. I would say it's easing up a little bit now, but it's still challenging. So how do you get in this specific industry looking for employees for this industry?
You know, that's a good question. I think, you know, a lot of this industry is ran by a lot of maybe the older population, so they're so stuck of doing like the help wanted signs or maybe an ad online and things like that. And you know, I'm part of Gen Z, and I use more social media and leverage a lot of online presence to make the word out there. So it allowed me to build a community online and get a lot of different candidates that people would never even thought about or heard about. You know, I think a lot of people do want new jobs or want new opportunities or want to level up in their career, but one, they don't know necessarily where the jobs are at, and then two, how do I get access? Who are the gatekeepers? Things like that. So leveraging social media, creating a podcast, creating content to really put out there, going to these conferences, creating videos, aligning yourself with people in your market. Those type of things help you to really grow on social media, which in turn help me to really build a solid base of candidates that are looking for jobs, and a solid base of people that are willing to refer me candidates looking for jobs.
Nice. So you have to help me understand something about this industry. Is this a career where people get in this industry and they stay with it? I don't want to say forever because nobody stays in anything forever, but do they
Yeah.
stay with it a while? Or is this a stepping stone or a temporary or something where they're, and I don't want to, I guess I have no idea what is involved in doing this. So I'm just like, is this something anyone can do? Do you have to go to
Yeah.
school to do this? Do you have to be licensed? I have no idea. So I'm really curious about the market and what kind of people are applying and do they stick around?
For sure, for sure. So we mainly work with nurse practitioners and physician assistants. In some states, registered nurses can work and do this. In some states, they can't. And in very, I think like two states, aestheticians can do this. But that's only like two in the whole United States. So because of that, most of these people that come and work have already completed around 6 to 8 years of school, and then they go ahead and get a certification on top of that to do aesthetics. So they're putting hours and hours and hours and hours before they even first touch their first patient. And then on top of that, they're putting continuous education more and more and more and more in each year, thousands of dollars of their own money that they're making. So yeah, the people that we hire are pretty serious about what they do. A lot of them stay in their career for years and years and years. Again, it's only 20 years old, so you got to think about the market. It's not like people have been in this for 50 years or things of that nature. So as the industry grow, I'm sure we'll see how more data around it surrounding the topic that you're mentioning. But as of right now, I could see a lot of people that I've known been 5, 10 years already.
All right. Well, they went to school for 6 to 8 years to do something around this realm. I would hope just to be able to pay off the loans, they got to find a gig that's doing all right for them. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly.
So it sounds like those are people that aim towards healthcare universally, somewhat, and then do they steer this way because healthcare is somewhat of a mess and this is more lucrative, or why would someone go away from healthcare, quote unquote, in the hospitals and clinics that way and come to something like this?
I think people understand that this market is way less relaxed than it would be in a hospital setting. Sometimes in the hospital setting, you work 12-hour days, you patient after patient after patient. Everybody's stressed, things of that nature. In a med spa setting, it's very chill, relaxed. It's an hour, you see one patient an hour, you are able to take your time. You're able to, people come in there, they're happy, they're smiling, they want to be here. This is fun. It's a fun environment. People are sipping champagne. Like, it's an environment to be in, to have a really good time. And internally, it makes the person that's providing the service feel the same, right? They feel great on your journey, helping you to get to your confidence and where you want to be. I mean, if we talk about, again, like the weight loss stuff, people are going to get on these drugs, GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy and things like that, transforming their life, going from 300 pounds to like 150, 160, half their body weight over a certain amount of time, or 20% of their body weight over a certain amount of time. It's helping the market so much. So people are really loving, hey, I don't have to be stressed in a hospital. I can have a family balance. I can still have kids. I can still only work Monday through Friday 9 to 5, but still be in a healthcare setting and do what I love, and plus make a ton of money, because you do make a lot of money, right? Make a ton of money at what I'm doing.
Nice. That's cool. As I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking the hours alone are probably way better because typical nurse at a hospital or something like that, I imagine that's essentially 24/7.
Yeah.
Your schedule, I'm sure, with seniority and stuff like that, it moves around, whatever. But the Monday through Friday, X to Y, very easy and nowhere near the stress level. People aren't being rushed in on a gurney, I suppose, or anything like that. So that is interesting. How many clinics? I guess I don't know if you know the stat or not, but I imagine the number of clinics that are available is going up. Is that safe
Oh,
to say?
100%. 100%. I mean, since I've started, well, we only been doing this for 5 years. When I first started, it was a good amount of clinics, but a lot of people were still doing like aesthetics in a plastic surgery office. Coming into year five, we're about to hit year five. Coming into year five, I see so many med spa chains, so many venture capitalists coming into this industry, buying up big centers and transforming them. When you see a lot of VCs in the industry, you usually can tell it's doing really well and it's expanding. So I think the med spa, the aesthetic industry, the injectable industry is expanding so much and has so much more room to grow. And I can't wait to see.
That is cool. That is very cool. So you mentioned franchises. There's franchises for this stuff?
Yeah, there's franchises for this stuff. I mean, we could start off with the ones that have been around the longest, like Ideal Image, which a lot of people go to. Kind of like the first, like if you're first patient and you never did Botox for a lot of people tend to go to Ideal Image. They have a lot of ads running out there, and they treat a lot of areas that are regulated by the government. And then now we have newer franchises that are focused on things like HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy, which is huge. If you guys are over the age of 30, definitely check that out because it will change your life. And then also focus on aesthetics too. So I see that a big wave, but there's so many franchises. Yeah.
So you mentioned a few things there. And
Yeah.
normally I consider myself a pretty smart person.
Yeah.
In this conversation, I'm like, I swear this guy's speaking Chinese, man. What is HRT? You said hormone replacement therapy?
Yeah. Hormone
Help me out.
replacement.
What is that?
It's amazing. It's a life-changing thing, I swear. So a lot of times as we grow, we hit this thing called menopause, men and women. I just not called menopause for men, but it's called something else. And when that happens, usually your testosterone levels drop, right? So that makes you feel sleepy, tired. You can't really go through, you don't feel like when you were 21 or 25, right? Can't really work out. Sex isn't really great. So you go and you get that replaced, right? And they can either give you pellets or there's other ways to give you that medication. And once that's in your system, it raises your testosterone levels to levels that it should be at, and you feel so much better. You feel like you were maybe at 25, where all those things that I just mentioned are back at the normal levels, and you can really hit the ground running.
These are, you said pellets. Is that like a
Yeah.
pill or?
I think I'm not a provider, so I can't really tell you, but I believe they're inserted into you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Orally or other ways?
Um, I don't want to get into that because I don't want to give you any wrong information, but I'm sure if you look
Okay.
on YouTube, they have it. And also,
Okay.
if you don't want to do the pellets, I think they have like something oral that you can take. I believe so. But again, check with your provider for that.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. And is that exclusively a testosterone booster thing? Or are
Yeah.
there estrogen boosters or I don't know, other
Right.
hormones?
No, no, no. So, I mean, men and women need testosterone for sure, but depending on your gender, they do have other plans as far as like which HRT to give you and things of that nature. For sure, for sure.
Interesting. All right. Now tell me about the legal side of this from a I want to say FDA. Like, do they get into this and say, hey, this is regulated? Or is it one of those where like the herbal supplements that you see where they're just like, eh, this is a thing and we're pretty sure it does this, but no one's ever actually tested it, kind of thing.
For sure. It's super regulated, especially in America. That's why, a lot of people see like a lot of people making money off this and they just want to jump into it. Wouldn't highly recommend, I would not recommend that unless you like really are with a lawyer or really understand what you're doing because you don't want to get into those any lawsuits. But yes, it is regulated by the FDA. As far as injecting is concerned, there's certain areas that they approve, certain areas that they don't approve. People still practice them. It's just not, it's higher risk. So yeah. And then the certain products that are FDA approved, a lot of people, especially in Miami, have a big kind of black market scene. So people get their products, not unlicensed providers, I've seen get their products from like Amazon or something that are very dangerous, can cause like very occlusion. I've seen like disformed facial figures after. So just be careful. If you are going to a med spa, ask to see their lot number, ask to see the medication before they inject it. Know your knowledge, research the knowledge before you go into any med spa and get injected by anybody.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. So when it comes to these injectables and pellets and all this jazz, how many manufacturers are there? Is it A few dozens, hundreds?
I would say there are about like five that really cover everything.
Okay,
And you'd be surprised because probably a lot of the products that you use every day are covered by the same companies that provide injectables and things like that. But nobody really pays that attention. But like MERS, Galderma, Allergan, those are just a couple to name a few. But I think there's like five or six that really run the whole industry.
got it. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of guys in the garage cooking up some batch or whatever or anything.
Hopefully not. If that is the case, run fast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, we're certified. Yeah, it's all good. So, how you mentioned social media? Let's shift gears to finding the employees.
Yeah, for sure.
So, let's say somebody's got one of these med spas and they're like, "Hey, I need another person," and they come to you and they're like, "Jonathan, find me a person."
Yeah.
You get on social media. Just tell me the story about how you find someone in that location because it's not a work remote job. That's
Yeah.
an in person at this clinic kind of thing. So, how do
Yeah.
you go about finding people that fit that role?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. If a client comes to me, well, we do an intake to really understand what type of client that you are, right? Because not every med spa is the same. Now in relation to when it comes to like location and kind of finding that perfect person, because we've been doing so long, we have a database full of thousands of candidates, so it's pretty easy to send like a blast. Hey, who's looking in this area? Who's looking in that area? Type of thing. Outside of that, we've cultivated like groups that with inside of social media such as Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, that we're able to put like messages out there. People are able to reach out. And just industry friends that we can talk to, see who may be looking, things like that. It's a very upscale service, meaning the candidates look for a high experience. So we'd like to provide that with them. Like I said, they've been in school for 6 to 8 years. They're doing a job where they're probably going to produce $1 million for this company in a year. They want to be treated well. So we want to treat them well.
Nice. So I imagine, well, maybe I shouldn't even imagine. Let me just ask you, tell me about turnover at these places. Are they hopping from place to place, staying in the industry, but moving from clinic to clinic?
A lot of them are because they're trying to find the right place. Again, it's only been around for 20 years, so some of these places are ran like the Wild Wild West. They don't have the typical HR, they don't have the typical benefits, they don't have the typical things. Some of the companies are ran very well. And if coming from a hospital, you can just slide in there and you'll feel very comfortable. So that could be, this is an industry where it's not like you're going to get trained 24/7 when you're in a clinic. You have to invest in yourself to learn. I mean, you're counting on really yourself, your medical director that may be 50 miles away, or yourself in that moment and your knowledge in the past. So a lot of providers might come out of college a year or two and they're like, hey, I don't feel comfortable injecting on my own because I've only been out of school for 2 years. I want to be around other providers and things of that nature. So it's very important that you do your research when trying to find a job and understand that, because if not, you might be jumping around until you find the perfect place. But if they're in a good place, I don't see them really leaving for a long time.
All right. And tell me about the relationship that the client has with the, would you call him a nurse or what would you call
Yeah.
them? Okay. So a client nurse, I'm picturing this in my mind, having not been to one of these places. So I apologize if I sound ignorant.
Good.
But you think of massage, acupuncture, chiropractic, places like that. If that person, that whatever the person that's actually doing the service, if they move to a different place, a lot of times their clients will follow them because there's a relationship there and they understand, like, hey, you know my body, whatever, you know where to stick the needles, all that jazz. So with something like this, when nurses move to a different clinic, are a lot of their clients following them?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Honestly, if they're not farther away, like they're not distance away, yeah, a lot of people are tending to find, when they find somebody great, they want to stick with them. Just like us men, when we find a great barber, I want to stick with the barber for a long term, or somebody that, so they want to stick with the injector that they're working with. And there used to be this thing called non-competes, due to the new administration right now in government, their non-competes are kind of banned in all industries. So
Yeah, it's
that,
kind of up and down. They change their mind a few times a week on that one. There's a lot
yeah.
of court cases.
Yeah. So that kind of changed a lot in the industry, because that prevented people from saying, "Hey, I'm moving to down the street. I'm moving over here." Again, you should. It's all. This is a social media industry. People are gonna find you. They're gonna see where you work, even if you don't tell them. Hey, I know Sarah ejected my face so well. I'm gonna find where she's at. I'm gonna go to her anyways because I like the interaction that we had together.
All right. Tell me, you keep mentioning social media, and I'm so curious about this
Yeah.
because we look for employees the old-fashioned way, slapping an ad on the any of the websites where people go to look for jobs, hope for the best. Usually, we get hundreds of applicants, and maybe I think our ratio is about 12 to 300. 12 good for every 300 applicants.
Yeah.
And when I mean good, I mean good enough to take to the next step of a video interview, not necessarily good enough to hire. And that'll whittle that down. That funnel gets short really quick. So, social media, do you just put a little blast out there that says, hey, man, we're hiring? Or tell me about the social media aspect from what are the posts going up?
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest things is first you have to cultivate an audience, right? If you're following everybody from every industry and you put a post about a job, I mean, how many people are you really going to get? And are they going to be any good? Because they're not even speaking the type of language that you're speaking. So cultivating that audience is first. I think second is really building the job description or building the post that people can understand. 1 year of experience, must do this, must do that. So people know, hey, if you don't even have that type of experience, don't even apply, you're not going to be a good fit type of thing. Once you do those two things, I think it makes it pretty simple to get the kind of candidates that you want to get. In this industry, luckily, like you said, 300, you may get, even if you put an ad on an Indeed or whatever, you're not going to get 300. You may get 50. Now that 50, you might find one that's kind of good, and she might not even show up for the interview. So it's really important to use all the resources, all the avenues, and again, cultivate an audience in the industry that you're working in.
I love, I love that you said that they may not even show up to the interview. Because
Yeah.
there was a time when I first hired and I had somebody not show up to an interview. This was, I don't know, we're probably talking a long time ago, 2 digits. Um, and I was like, what did I do wrong? Did I not give them the address? Like, what happened? And I started talking to other business owners, and they're like, yeah, that's a thing. Like, what do you mean that's a thing? I wouldn't even dream of not showing up to an interview that I got. Like, I had to do everything I could to get that interview.
Mhm.
That's like going to the restaurant and being like, "Hey, I'm not hungry anymore." Like, what? You did all this stuff. You came here, blah blah blah. So it's so interesting that there's people in every single industry where they just flake on the interviews. Not good,
I don't think
but it's
so. Especially if the industry is upside down, meaning the candidate know there's tons of jobs and there's not as many people that can provide that service. When they know that, yeah, they're going to be very choosy. Or they might change their mind halfway through or the day of. Hey, I don't feel like doing this. I'll get another interview tomorrow. It doesn't matter. That's obviously not the right way to think or the approach to take as a candidate. And there's many reasons why. You might burn yourself long term. Things might not work out. X, Y, Z, things like that. But yeah, that tends to happen.
just being a good person universally,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
It's interesting. It's just different dynamic, I guess. So, how do you gain the following? Because you're, I guess, social media following. You're after people that have gone to school for this, that would
Okay.
be qualified, whether they're looking for a job or not. They're they have potential to be an employee for one of your clients. How do you target that audience and
Yeah, I
get them?
think
I should say, let me caveat that. How do you get them attracted to want to follow you?
yeah. I think the biggest things is two things. One, add value back. So start day one, no followers. Find stuff that you think your following would like to see and start making those videos to attract that. And then thing two, or number two, is to leverage people in your industry's audience. So I'm in the aesthetic industry. I do interviews or I'll go into a med spa and film the video, collaborate, flow posts with them, leverage their audience, get people to understand that I'm in the market too, and this is what service and this is the value that I provide. Would you like to be entertained? Would you like to know more about what I'm doing? So I think those two things are key to building any audience in a special industry.
All right, very cool. Tell me, you said you've been doing this for 5 years.
Yeah,
Is that right? Yeah, that's a big hurdle. So that's cool.
yeah.
Really big hurdle. Tell me about the challenges that came across as you started your business that you didn't necessarily anticipate.
Yeah, I think a lot of it came from the back end for me mostly. So, like I said, when I first started, I was doing a lot of conferences and I had a mentor and I kind of did like an apprenticeship. So I knew a lot of like the how to get clients, how to get candidates, how to make business happen. But like having a lawyer, a business tax accountant, LLC benefits, things like that, that I had no idea that I just kind of had to learn on the fly, and I'm still learning about certain things. But I think that's the part of business that's kind of like less sexy that people don't really put so much attention in that really you should.
Fair. I joke with people that when you tell people you have a business, they just assume you have a yacht. There's a
Yeah.
helicopter on that yacht. They just, as soon as you start your business, they're like, where do you want us to park your yacht? And I
Yeah,
learned that that is not exactly how it works.
for
Maybe
sure.
over time if you do it right, but not right away. Tell me when you got your business going and it's starting to work, you're starting to gain some traction. Do you have any success stories from things that worked out even better than you did anticipate?
Well, I think my first actually deal is the biggest success story, and I always think about it. And I still work with this client to the day. But when I actually left my last job, I left my last job, and I had all this information, and like pandemic was happening. I didn't really know how to like formulate this information, so I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go find another job. So I got a little job at a law firm, and I hated it. Oh, it was one of the worst jobs, and not because it was a bad job, but it just wasn't me. It wasn't in my DNA. So I just hated going. So in the back of my mind, I started building this company, just reaching out to clients that I have known in the past, things like that. And my first client, I did the interview and he called me one day. I was at that law firm. He was just like, yeah, I want to hire her. Like, how do I pay? Like, how do I pay? He paid that day. I left that job and I never missed a deal after that. I mean, the deals just kept going one after the other, after the other, and after the other. I never stopped to this day, clients after clients after clients. So yeah, that's the biggest.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. So that's a great segue here because I want to talk about pricing. We don't talk
Yeah.
about actual numbers, but just how you charge. Is it similar to I'm thinking like a temp service where they charge a percentage of the hourly, or the person's actually an employee of yours for a little bit until the clinic's sure that they're cool? Or is it more like headhunter where it's percentage of salary? Like how do you one, how do you charge? And two, how did you figure out how to charge?
Yeah, I think one of well, I'll answer the first part first. So how do you figure out how to charge, right? You have to do data statistics. You have to really do your research on the market. What are your competitors charging? How do they charge? Things like that. Unfortunately, you got to understand that so you can kind of put your foot in there, whether you be higher, lower, or the same. So I had to do that research, really figure out, talking to clients, what are they charging you? How are they charging you? What are their non-competes? I mean, their guarantees. What are they offering? Once I figured out that information, I kind of figured out where I wanted to be in the market and how I wanted to position myself. Just to give you like some inside information, I'm not the top, like at the highest rank, but I'm very far from the lowest amount of money that a client would charge. And that's just because I want to give a service, a value, a long-term partnership with the businesses that I work with. And, that's just how I work it with them. And how do I charge? Was that the second question?
Yeah, well, essentially, yeah. How do you charge? So if a clinic comes to you and they're like, "Hey, we need
Yeah.
one person," or I don't know, maybe sometimes they come to you and they need three people. How do you charge them, or how are they ending up paying you? I guess because they also have
Yeah.
to pay for that employee or those
Right.
employees, I should say.
Right. So we only do direct hires here. So direct placements. So that means that the candidate is automatically working under you. They have no association with us once they get hired. We do a flat rate fee. So you just pay one fee. You get a 90-day guarantee on that candidate. And that's pretty much how it goes. We have add-ons depending on the client. Like if you want to necessarily, maybe you're a newer spa or newer practice, you want to get like compensation benefits, you want to understand the job, how to retain them, how to make them stay for a long time, different factors. We also offer that too.
Nice. That's cool. That's interesting. Tell
Yeah.
me, and I think that I know the answer to this, but I want to ask you as well. Because we've had clients that are like, oh my gosh, I can just hire a receptionist instead of having you guys. And I always think, man, good luck. Good luck. Maybe in 5, 10 years when the market shifts a little bit, that'll be more of a thing. Maybe AI will be a thing where we don't exist anymore. Who knows? But
Yeah.
it's interesting. I imagine there's clinics that are just like, I'll hire someone my own. Tell me what you have seen, I guess, in that regard with other clinics trying to go down that road.
Yeah, I think it's an investment. One, you got to understand the investment. And we do talk to some clients. 90, I would say 90% of the clients, luckily, understand what we're trying to do. And they either one, they can't afford it at this very moment, which I help them to understand why they can't afford it at this very moment. But some of them maybe think they can't afford it at the very moment. Or most of them really just like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready now. Let's just do it. Now the 10% that don't understand, usually within a couple of months, they come back and say, hey, I wasted a bunch of money. I should have just hired you in the first place. Give my number out to every one of your clients if they're in the position trying to decide this is why they should hire you. Because it is an investment, but you think about it right, your business only can go as far as the people that work with you. So if you're hiring people that are not good, not understanding, you're just wasting money, wasting time, and stifling your business from growing. If you hire the best of the best people in your market that bring innovative ideas, are ready to hit the ground running, your business is going to take off like no other. And that small investment that you invested to find a great employee will be nothing to you because you will make that back in the littlest of time.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Get the
Yeah.
right people, man. That is the name of the game.
Yeah.
So tell me, I want to ask a little secret here as far as interviewing goes, because I imagine you have to reach out to the potential candidates
Yeah.
and you got to kind of vet them to make sure one, that they got the education, two, they got the skill set, but three, I imagine there's personality and culture that they have, but also that they fit the culture of the clinic. Because I imagine there's clinics that are push them in, shove them out, and there's others that are more have a glass of champagne, have a hot towel, relax a little bit. This is
Yeah.
a this is an enjoyable service, not just a butcher shop or something like that. Tell me, how are you questioning or interviewing the people that are potential candidates to figure out who's a good fit to go where?
No, it's a good question. I think it first start off, and I guess that really starts off with the intake of the client, understanding who the client is and what they're looking to bring in the table, where they're looking to head with their company. Some people are just like, hey, I just want somebody to come in and handle all the people in marketing. I don't care about their life, just like one after another, after another, after another. And some candidates just want to make money and they don't care about work-life balance. And then we have another sector of the market that really understands longevity and really understand upscale service and really want to provide that because they know what that means to the client and how they can grow their business. And some candidates are looking for that. So it's really understanding first the client and what they want out of their business. And the second, putting the candidates through three tests. So one, they go through a test. Well, it's not really a test, but qualification with the recruiter. So the recruiter asks them basic questions, such as, level of experience, what they're looking for in their next opportunity, things like that. And then they do a FaceTime or a Zoom with us, so we can get a more of an understanding with them and just really tell them and break it down to them the expectations before they go into the interview. After that, then they meet with the client and they can talk a little bit more with the client and go into that.
Got it. So when this candidate is meeting with you or with your recruiters,
Yeah.
that's remote, right? That's over something like this.
Yeah, like this. Yep.
Okay. And then they're meeting the clinic owner, whoever's hiring them or potentially hiring them. That's in person.
Yeah.
Got it. What are some of the things that you look for that are like, this isn't a good fit? I would say, let's just say universally for any clinic or client of yours.
Yeah, someone that's not willing to grow. This is a very involving industry. So if you're like, I don't like this, I don't want to learn about this. No, I don't believe that. Probably not going to be a good fit because things are going to change very fast. You got to be ready to do that. And then two, someone that's kind of full of like a diva or full of themselves. Every now and then you get somebody that thinks they're bigger than the program. And I don't like to work with those type of candidates because it's a team atmosphere in these med spas. Unless you're working doctor and you one-on-one, there's really not too much room for an ego. So you really have to be willing to hit the ground running with the clinic, understand what you can do, what you're capable of, what you need training of, not too confident that, hey, I just learned this, I want to do it tomorrow, and just not, knowing the steps. Really putting the time, the education, like I said, spending your own money to really get to be the best you can.
All right. Very cool. So no diva. I thought you were going to say you're looking for divas. Whoa. Ah!
No. We need people that are part of the team. Team is the biggest thing in this business.
All right. So for a typical clinic, how many employees are there?
I would say usually a typical clinic, it depends on the size, but I would say an average one, maybe have two injectors, a manager, an esthetician, and a front desk.
Okay. And is there, you mentioned the word doctor. Are there doctors involved? Like doctor went to school for 12 years, doctor kind of thing?
Yeah, so a doctor has to do that and the doctor part of it too. But the doctor has to be the medical director of usually of these clinics. So a doctor really just signs off on charts, oversees the clinic from a medical standpoint and call if they have emergencies or they might need some advice or something. Some usually they're not in the clinic every day, but maybe like once a week or once a month or a couple times a month, not once a month, a couple times a month to kind of check in and see how everything's going.
All right. So if they're just coming in that rarely, do they have jobs or businesses elsewhere? These doctors?
Yeah, usually so in the med spa industry, usually only a plastic surgeon or dermatologist can be a medical director. So usually they're either working at another business as a full-time dermatologist or plastic surgeon, or they have their own practice and they're just like, okay, I'll supervise yours while I have my own.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Interesting. And we're talking about doctors went to school for many years, have loads of debt to show for it, kind of thing.
Yeah, plastic surgeons or dermatologists for sure.
All right. Interesting. Tell me about the estheticians. Are you hiring them as well?
Very rarely, to be honest. If a clinic needs one, I can definitely do a private search, but it's not something that we just have so many jobs out there for. But estheticians are very important to any med spa. They're people that do the facials. They also might do derma planning, things like that for you. Um, it's a complement to injectables, right? So you don't want to get Botox and your skin is like smooth, but then you have all these acne and stuff, right? You want to be able to have both. So you go see the esthetician, get those facials, get recommendations on what products you should be using daily, get recommendations on how to, maybe repair some things that you are not confident the most about your skin.
Got it. All right. That is cool. That is very cool. Tell me
Yeah.
about your team and how you've hired for your team.
That's a good question. It took some time to really perfect the right team, but really understanding what the mission of each employee, like what is your mission in life? And what I mean by that is what are you passionate about? I understand you want to work with me, but what else are you passionate about? How can I help you to thrive in what you have going on? And I think that's important because a lot of times we just hire people and like, hey, okay, you just want a job, you want to make money. And that might work for a whole month, it might even work for a year. But I like people to work for a very long time and be invested in the job, just like I'm invested in. And I think when you really get to know the type of person, one, what they're like and what they value the most, it helps you to align, what you value most in your company.
Yeah, it's fair. That's fair. It's interesting because I was taught to ask a question to potential candidates. Let me think how it goes. It was, where do you want to be in 3 or 5 years? I think we just did 3 years because 5 years to me seems like a very long time. Where do you want to be in 3 years? And how do you want this job to help get you there? And it's interesting because I used to ask that to candidates, but I stopped because I met a lot of people that just did not have goals. They were
Mhm.
just, it was day to day. And when I asked them essentially, what are you aiming towards? Like, what's goals in life? Whatever they are. House, vacation, take care of kids. I don't, whatever it is, I don't care what it is. It's up to you, right? That's your life. I just want to make sure that this is a job that will help you get there so you can help them achieve it. And it was interesting how many people were just like, what? They just looked at me at this, like, can't you just ask me about strengths and weaknesses or something like that? And I had to stop asking it because it was, I would say, man, 95% of the people just gave me this, like, what? I need a job to pay bills. Like,
Yeah.
isn't that enough kind of thing? I'm like, all right, I suppose we could ask that too. What bills do you have? It was just an interesting, I don't know. I don't know if you found this. I imagine you have a little bit. When you keep interviewing all these people, whether it's on podcasts or for a job or whatever, it turns into somewhat of a little bit of a psychological test where you start seeing patterns. And you're like, man, there's a group in the world that's challenged or I understand there's a lot of negativity with that people have, or if you don't have any goals, you don't really have a reason for the job except to pay the bills. That's it. So kudos to you, man, for asking people that. That is incredible. Tell me, have you gotten any good answers?
Yeah, I get tons of really good answers. I think a lot of people that I work with on my team are usually on a goal to really succeed in something they're passionate about, but they love, a lot of people that come and they be like, one, they start off like, wow, the aesthetic industry is super interesting. I've heard of it. I want to be a part of it. That's the first step. So I piqued your interest as far as the industry. And then, understanding their goals. I've got a lot of people that my last assistant, she wanted to open her own hair salon, and we were working together. She was really good, really good. But then eventually she went to go open her own hair salon after a couple of years. So it's really understanding what your goal is, how can I help you to get there, and how can you be an asset to what I have going on.
That last part, that is so interesting. It's super interesting that you said that, because I feel like that's one thing, one major piece that people universally are not understanding. I try to tell my crew this, I don't know about every day, but often said it's all about value. The value that I provide you from a job point of view, the value that you provide me, and more so, arguably, the value that you provide our clients and their callers.
Yeah.
Things like that. Anytime that it gets off kilter, where the value is higher than what we're being paid, or vice versa, we're paying you more than the value you're offering, we got to make a change, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's education or just walking away, whatever it is. But it's all about value in everything you do. So that's cool that you ask that to help them understand, look, everything's rainbows and moonbeams, but in the end, this is a business. Transactions are happening and on both ends, right? Employer, employee. So we both have to offer value to each other. Instead of the employees always saying, like, what can you give me? What can you give me? Kind of thing. Interesting. I love it. So, Jonathan, where can people find you?
Yeah, so everybody, if you want to ask me questions, you're interested about what I want and what I'm doing, or maybe you are able to inject and you want a job, you can hit me on Instagram or follow me on Instagram at Jonathan McLean, JonathanMcLean. And I'm pretty sure if you go to any social media site such as YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, you can look up that name and that'll pop up. And then we also have a podcast called The Aesthetic Talk. Check that out on Spotify. And yeah.
Aesthetic Talk, that's TALK. Is there an S at the end or not?
No.
No. Okay. Aesthetic Talk. That is awesome. Tell me about your podcast really quick.
Yeah, so Aesthetic Talk is really built for injectors in the community. A lot of times when I started this industry, I was getting a lot of questions from candidates like, wait, I'm trying to ask so many people. People are gatekeeping. I can't get in. How do I get in? It's so hard. I want to give up. And I couldn't sit with every single person to tell them. So I created this podcast and bring on really experts in the industry to talk about how they got in, how they became successful, how they leveled up from maybe they were injected for 5 years and want to start their own business, or they wanted to be speaking, want to get in the speaking route or products and stuff. So we talk about everything, all aspects from behind the scenes, talking to CEOs to the actual candidates and injectors in the market and things like that.
That's awesome. Aesthetic Talk. I will have to check that out because I imagine there's tons for me to learn in this industry, and just out of pure curiosity. I love it. This is cool.
Yeah, it's a fun time.
Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. My name is James Kademan, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for service businesses across the country, on the web at callsoncall.com. And of course, the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur in all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. If you're listening or watching this on the web, if you could do us a huge favor, give it a big old thumbs up, subscribe, and of course, share it with your entrepreneurial friends, as well as those friends that you may have that are in the aesthetic field and maybe looking for a gig. Jonathan is the man to help them. We'd like to thank you, our wonderful listeners, as well as our guest, Jonathan McLean of McLean Aesthetics. Jonathan, can you tell us, you have a website, right?
Yeah, it's www.mcleanaesthetics.com.
Awesome. And then the social media, tell us that again.
It's going to be at Jonathan McLean, JonathanMclean.
Awesome. And then finally, the podcast.
The podcast is going to be called The Aesthetic Talk. Check it out on Apple and Spotify podcasts.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night at the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.